At first, I couldn't believe that they were missing. If they were, I didn't know at the time if they were missing or not. So basically what I did was went to my security camera footage, checked it out, went back to the police and told them basically what I had, and they eventually wanted to come in and look at it.
Chris Watts, convicted of murdering his pregnant wife and 2 daughters. How well do you know your spouse? Time exclusive with his neighbor, who handed over the video.
Watch, I'll show you.
That led to his arrest.
Heard. A pregnant mother, Shanann Watts, and her 2 daughters, Cece and Bella, killed at the hands of her husband, their father, Chris Watts. Today, an exclusive interview with a neighbor close to the family, who's now being called a hero for helping police put Chris Watts behind bars. What made a man most people thought was a loving husband and dad turn into a killer?
The story shocked the world. A devastated father pleading for the return of his pregnant wife and their 2 small daughters, who'd vanished after his wife returned from a weekend business trip. If you're out there, just come back. If somebody has her, just please bring her back.
If you believe every victim deserves to be remembered and every truth deserves to be told, subscribe to The Crime Narrator. These stories live on because you're here to hear them.
On the quiet morning of August 13, 2018, the neighborhood of Frederick, Colorado looked like any other peaceful suburban street. The sun was rising slowly, casting soft light over rows of tidy homes and quiet driveways. But behind one of those doors, something had already gone terribly wrong. Next door to the Watts family lived a man who would soon become one of the most important witnesses in the entire case, Nathan Trinastich, often known simply as Neighbor Nate. Like many homeowners, Nate had installed a security camera facing the street in his driveway. It was meant for safety, just a way to keep an eye on the neighborhood. No one could have imagined that this simple camera would soon capture moments that investigators would analyze again and again. That morning, while most of the neighborhood was still quiet, Nate's camera recorded unusual activity coming from the home of Chris Watts and Shanann Watts. Later, when police arrived to investigate the sudden disappearance of Shanann and her daughters, Nate did something that would change everything. He invited officers inside his house to review the footage. What the camera showed was subtle but strange. Chris Watts was seen backing his truck into the driveway early that morning. Something Nate immediately noticed was unusual. In that neighborhood, people normally parked on the street or kept their trucks in the garage. But that morning was different. As investigators watched the footage inside Nate's living room, the tension in the room began to rise. Even Nate himself started pointing things out as the video played. Small movements, suspicious timing, quiet details that didn't seem right. And in that moment, it became clear. Nate had seen something that might reveal the truth about what happened that morning. But this was only the beginning. Because what Nate noticed next would leave investigators, and eventually the entire world, asking one chilling question. What was Chris Watts really doing that morning? Backhand index pointing right if you want to hear the rest of this shocking story. Make sure to like this video, share it with others, and subscribe for more true crime stories and investigations. As the police sat inside the living room of Nathan Trinastich, the atmosphere was tense. The television screen displayed the security footage from early that morning. Standing nearby was Chris Watts himself, watching the video along with the officers.
Usually park out there on the side. I just want to get everything back in. Be easier to lugging everything out there, all the tools that I had to bring in. do with this?
My detective just showed up, so he'll probably want to talk to you. He'd probably, like I said, he might have you call at the bank and see if there's any kind of activity.
Because if there was any sort of action out
On
there,
his camera's
I would have got it.
Like
Right.
we had issues the other week when people were stealing stuff out of like garages and stuff like that, and I had parked my truck
I
over
had
here.
to park right here.
Yeah. So someone,
See if
I could
anything
see where someone tried to jimmy with a flathead screwdriver over there, and it was just like.
But if any action would have happened, any cars or anything left your house, I would
Yeah, if it
have
would
got
have
it.
been like right in that area, they should have picked. I mean,
Oh, it'll pick up anything coming down the street this way.
you know where that tree there too?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Watch, I'll show you. There's nothing on here. We've already watched that one. But like, you'll see this car.
What security system do you have?
Xfinity. Oh, you can see this car starting to drive down the street.
That one.
Oh, look. Okay.
See what I'm saying? It picks up all the way down there.
That's cool.
He's next door.
There we go.
I was talking about dispatcher. It'll be close for.
Cause yeah, we can pick up cars coming this way. I get anything coming this way and making this turn. So, and usually at night I pick up the cars pulling a U-turn. So unless they pulled right here,
Yeah.
but I would have caught her walking out. Diesel.
You're good.
At first glance, the footage seemed ordinary. Chris's truck slowly backed into the driveway of the Watts home before sunrise. The neighborhood was quiet, the street empty, and nothing appeared obviously alarming. But as the video continued, Nate began pointing out details that didn't seem normal. Nate explained that Chris almost never parked his truck that way. Normally, he would park on the street or leave the truck in the garage. Backing it directly into the driveway was something Nate had rarely seen before. The camera showed Chris walking back and forth between the house and the truck several times. Each trip looked like he was loading something. Investigators watched closely as Chris moved quickly, occasionally glancing around. Some moments were hard to see clearly, but the repeated trips raised serious questions. Standing in the room, Chris appeared visibly nervous. His arms crossed tightly across his chest as he watched the screen. At one point, Nate later said he noticed Chris's behavior change as the footage played. It was almost as if Chris realized how much the camera had captured. Police officers quietly continued watching. To them, this wasn't just a neighbor's security recording anymore. It was potentially the timeline of the last known movements before Shanann Watts and her daughters disappeared. The footage didn't show everything clearly, but it showed enough to make investigators suspicious. And for Nate, the feeling in his gut grew stronger. Something about that morning wasn't right. What the camera had captured might only be pieces of the story, but those pieces were beginning to form a disturbing picture. And soon, investigators would begin asking even more difficult questions. As the footage continued playing inside the home of Nathan Trinastich, the room grew increasingly quiet. The police officers were focused on every second of the video. Beside them stood Chris Watts, arms folded, trying to appear calm. But Nate noticed something strange.
So as soon as it picks up motion, it like back off. Okay. I thought you.
That was the start of the video.
Yep.
That was 148.
In the morning.
I didn't pick her up going into the house though.
It didn't. And I usually pick him up when he comes walking through here. I pick him up. So it doesn't show her walking into the house. If she would have walked by, we would have saw it. That's funny.
Okay.
Yeah. they see all these people coming in, they're like, what is going on?
Yeah.
And you know it's still live because it's flagging me.
Mm-hmm. How long does it typically record for?
30 seconds, I believe, at a time. But this is at 148, and then the next one I have is 105, whatever. So nothing, no cars came through, because I guarantee, with the headlights, it picked up the headlights automatically.
And my Vivint said that at 5:27, my garage door was left open. But that could have been the sensor as well. It says it was shut during the day, but I think when Nikki's son, he may try to move the door around, maybe when they were trying to get in the door, in the garage door, and it probably broke the laser there. That's because my alarm started going off.
Well, I know he said the front door he tried going in, but he had the lock up.
That's for
So
the
that
kids,
set
so
it
they don't
off.
get out.
Right.
As the video played, Chris didn't seem curious or concerned like someone whose family had just disappeared. Instead, he looked nervous. His body language seemed tense, and at times he avoided looking directly at the screen. Then something happened that caught everyone's attention. In the footage, Chris was seen walking back and forth between his garage and his truck several times. Each trip lasted only a few seconds, but the pattern looked unusual. It seemed like he was loading things into the vehicle. Nate leaned forward and pointed at the screen. "That's not normal," he said. The officers looked closely. From the angle of the camera, some movements were difficult to see clearly, but the repeated trips were impossible to ignore. At one moment, a shadow appeared near the truck door, something moving briefly before disappearing from view. It was unclear what it was, but the officers took note. Standing behind them, Chris shifted his weight uncomfortably. Nate later recalled that he had a strange feeling watching Chris react to the footage. Instead of explaining what they were seeing, Chris mostly stayed silent. For investigators, this video was beginning to establish something critical, a timeline. It showed that Chris had been active very early that morning, moving items between the house and his truck just hours before Shanann Watts and her daughters were reported missing. The evidence wasn't complete yet, but suspicion was growing quickly. And Nate had already begun to realize something chilling. The camera outside his house might have captured the first clues to a tragedy that the entire country would soon be talking about. As investigators continued reviewing the footage inside the home of Nathan Trinastich, their attention shifted between the screen and the man standing beside them, Chris Watts. The video itself was already raising questions, but Chris's reactions were beginning to raise even more. While the officers carefully analyzed the movements captured on camera, Chris seemed increasingly uncomfortable. He shifted his weight from foot to foot, crossed his arms tightly, and avoided long eye contact with the screen. To Nate, something about the situation felt strange. Normally, if someone's family had suddenly vanished, they would be desperate for answers. They would watch the footage closely, hoping to see anything that could help find their loved ones. But Chris didn't react that way. Instead, Nate later recalled that Chris seemed tense, almost as if he already knew what the video might reveal. At one moment in the footage, Chris was seen standing beside his truck for several seconds before walking back into the garage again. The action was brief, but investigators paused the video and replayed it. Every detail mattered. The officers quietly discussed the timeline. According to the video, Chris had been loading items into his truck very early that morning, hours before anyone reported Shanann Watts and the children missing. The silence in the room became heavy. Even Nate began to feel uneasy watching everything unfold. He later described that moment as the first time he truly felt something serious might have happened. As the footage ended, the officers thanked Nate for sharing the recording.
Right.
And our remote on the outside doesn't work anymore. It got wet and the whole radio on the ground.
So yeah, that was it.
Okay. All right, appreciate your time.
Yeah, no problem.
Thanks.
Hopefully something comes up here.
Yeah.
Mind if you just want to go talk to him? I'm going to get his info real quick.
He's not acting right at all.
No.
He's never taken me. He's never rocking back and forth. And if you look, he never loads his stuff in and out of the garage ever.
Right.
And it doesn't look like he came from right here. It looks like he came from down the street. And then the other thing that doesn't make sense is why would he pull past this part? You can see him pull past.
But they left the house with more questions than answers. And while Chris tried to appear cooperative, investigators were beginning to form a troubling suspicion. The neighbor's camera had captured something important. Something that might soon reveal the truth about that morning. By the time investigators left the home of Nathan Trinastich, they knew the security footage was more important than it first appeared.
Are you able to record this?
I'd have to call Comcast so I can get him to do whatever. But watch, you'll see him get out. And he walks back and forth a couple times. To be completely honest with you, my wife and I were kind of wondering when she was on vacation if something happened, because I've heard them full out screaming at each other at the top of their lungs, and he gets crazy.
Does he? And that's pretty recently?
Yeah. I'm guessing that's why she went and visited people, is because she wanted to get away from the situation.
Do you have your ID handy?
Yeah. It's kind of odd to me. Why would he pull the truck up into the garage?
Right.
Yeah, I've never seen him pull back.
I've never seen him. If he loads his stuff, he normally just walks back and forth, because I get him on camera.
What does he usually load up?
All he usually has is a lunch box and a book bag, looks like a computer, and usually a water jug. That's it. But the fact that he was in here and explaining to it over and over and over,
Well, odd.
he doesn't look worried. He looks like he's trying to cover his tracks. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And if he's loading his stuff, why isn't he walking back and forth? But I can't see what he's doing in the back of the truck because he pulled into the garage.
Yeah.
And he knows my camera's there.
Any other neighbors have cameras around here you know of?
I'm sure a bunch of them do, but not that I know of.
Okay.
You guys looking out.
Hey, I'll look at it. I'll
Yeah,
do a search here in a minute.
all these Fords kept coming up missing, so we moved in here, I put this in. And like you said, someone was breaking into it. He said that someone was breaking into his toolboxes of his truck, so I told him he could park his truck.
The video didn't show everything clearly, but it provided something crucial, a timeline. It showed Chris Watts moving back and forth between his home and his truck very early that morning. The repeated trips, the unusual parking position of the truck, and the timing all raised serious questions for investigators. Soon after, officers began comparing the footage with other evidence they were gathering in the case involving Shanann Watts and her daughters. Phone records, witness statements, Chris's own explanations. Piece by piece, the timeline of that morning started coming together. For Nate, the realization was unsettling. The small security camera he had installed simply to watch over his driveway had accidentally captured some of the most important clues in the investigation.
Park his truck out there in case they saw something. Diesel, I know you want to go play with the baby so bad.
Her mom just texted me that the day before she doesn't have an GPS tracker. Truck that says everywhere he goes.
Okay.
Just FYI.
Don't you think it's, look at the,
I know. I'm
kinda
trying
odd.
not to.
No, I'm
do
just
that.
saying it's kind of odd that he pulls his truck back behind my camera. The cutoff, the truck's in the garage right now. And he never backs his truck into the
That's
driveway
what her
ever.
friend Christina was saying.
Diesel.
She's like, he never backs his truck up. Her mom said it too. She's like, he carries his stuff out from the house. He
Yep.
doesn't back his truck up.
Well, I have him on camera doing it when he does it. Because when he was parking his truck over here, the other thing that was odd is while she was gone, he kept parking his truck and her car over here. And I used to see him walk out of his house right
He
here.
took the car out of the garage?
Oh, the car was parked over there for a long time, like a couple days.
This past weekend?
No.
It was when she was gone for the 6 weeks.
Oh,
But I thought it was kind of odd that he never parked in front of here or right here. He said someone broke into his truck and he parked over
Why
here.
did he do that?
I have no idea. Hey, he's acting so suspicious. He's normally, you can ask them, he's normally quiet, real subdued. He's over here telling you 3 times what he took out, what he did, what he did, what
Yeah,
he did.
he's very reserved.
He's very,
much an introvert.
he never talks. So the fact that he's over here blabbing his mouth makes me kind of suspicious of something.
yeah, but I mean, put yourself in his situation.
Oh, I agree.
You know, anyone's going to be nervous. You don't know what to do.
What seemed like an ordinary suburban morning was now part of a case that would soon capture national attention. As the investigation continued, the evidence began pointing more strongly in one direction. Detectives revisited the footage again and again, analyzing every moment and comparing it to Chris's statements. And slowly, the truth began to surface. The quiet neighborhood in Frederick, Colorado would soon become the center of one of the most shocking family crime stories in recent history. For many people following the case, Nate's footage became one of the most unforgettable moments because it showed how sometimes the smallest pieces of evidence can reveal the biggest truths. A neighbor's camera. A quiet street.
No, I agree, but I'm just saying the way he told you 3 times what he brought with him, why is he telling you exactly what he brought with him instead of saying, oh, they didn't see anybody out here, he didn't see anybody doing anything? You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Why is he so worried about you knowing what he's carrying out? That's all I'm saying.
The detective's talking to him.
What's that?
The detective's talking to him.
He's talking to him right now.
Hey, are you okay if we just walk through for a minute and then look at her phone if it's still up there?
Yeah, it's up here. I guess.
What's this door right here go to? It's locked. Do you have a key for it?
Yeah, they wake up, they'll just go right here and just play in the bathtub. Yeah.
Well, that's private.
Yeah, no. So you normally keep it locked? Yeah, because they would go in there, they'd be in the soap. Like last time we had Vaseline everywhere. Yeah. So that was not fun.
So does she normally make the beds, the kids' beds?
No.
What's going through your mind right now?
I don't know where my kids are. I don't know where Shanann is. It's not something I could ever fathom would happen in my lifetime, and I have no inclination of where she is. Yeah. We've reached out to friends, family. Both of our families are back in North Carolina, so they're beside themselves. Like, we all have friends in North Carolina. We have friends here. We have friends everywhere, and not knowing like where she is or where the kids are, I don't know what to do right now. I just feel so alone in this house right now, and I don't know where to go from here right now.
And you said you had to stay here by yourself last night. When I opened the door, it's like you're almost like
I mean, my heart's racing a mile a minute. I mean, just everything that's happening the last few days is just it's earth-shattering right now. It's like my world's been turned upside down.
And a morning that would never be forgotten. Backhand index pointing right if this story shocked you and you want more real true crime stories like this. Don't forget to like the video, share it with others, and subscribe so you never miss the next investigation.